Hi guys, so I'll be interviewing my parents today. So here's my parents. Do you want to introduce yourself?
I am Courtney, Danielle's mom.
And I'm Kevin, Danielle's dad.
So do you want to explain how you guys met?
Sure. You want to explain it? Okay. So I guess it's on me. All right. So I am prior Navy. Um, so we met on the same ship. I was stationed in Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, and she was coming to the ship, and one of my best friends on the ship, he was her sponsor, and so he didn't have a car at the time, so I was elected to drive him to the airport to pick young Miss Courtney up from the airport, and so that's how we officially met. Is in the airport, her being picked up to be a part of her first ship in the Navy, a ship that I'd already been on for I think a year and a half, something like that. So that's how we initially first met. That I covered.
Yes.
Okay.
Did you guys teach me ASL when I was a kid?
I'll let you take that.
So I found out that you were deaf or hard of hearing at 6 months. They ran tests, and then we learned that you were responsive to one side of your ear versus the other. And so they ran future tests, and we learned that you had um, severely sound impairment here versus over on this side. And so we started the process of getting you into speech therapy and to sign language. So yes, we did start with sign language with you when you were younger, as you was getting older, because we needed a way to communicate with you.
Do you have any favorite signs that you remember?
That's probably my favorite. My favorite one was, and those are my favorite ones. They're the easiest ones, and I don't know why, but shoes is a favorite one.
Shoes.
That's a
Yeah.
favorite one. I don't know why. That's weird.
Shoes on, shoes off.
Yeah, those are my favorite.
Shoes.
Yeah, I don't know why. Don't ask me why. Shoes is always my thing. I don't know why.
Okay.
Alright, next question is, as I was learning to communicate through speech or ASL, was it difficult or frustrating for you?
Uh, well, anytime you're learning a new language, it's going to be difficult. I'm just going to say it for me. But over time, once you get used to signing, then it just becomes a natural. Unfortunately, I didn't stay with it because otherwise I'd be signing right now as I'm talking. And if I start doing that, then she's gonna laugh at me because the way I talk is how I sign, and sometimes I'll sign wrong, but I talk wrong all the time anyway. So I just kind of like let it sit by the wayside, because the last thing I want to do is make an accident and cuss somebody out in sign language when I'm really not trying to, and I'm talking, saying something totally different. But I would say for me, it wasn't complicated. What would you say?
I would say, I was getting a phone call from KJ. But I would say, I don't know. I signed, but I tried to. I guess most of my focus was on speech. that was where most of my focus was, because I saw what could possibly be a gap, and because Danielle was, hard of hearing, I felt like I didn't want that part to fall, so I focused more on the speech than the sign language. I did take a class or two, one class I took.
Yeah,
I did take one class, and I signed, a little bit. My ASL is very, very limited, but that's because I didn't stick with it. I didn't continue it on, because again, I focus more on speech, because believe it or not, when Danielle was first diagnosed, and the different things, like even just in the house, she responded to my voice more because my voice is deeper. So she responded more to my voice than she did coordinate as far as hearing. She could hear my voice a lot better. So.
Okay. Did you have any worry or concern about me that end up not being an issue for me?
Well, for me as a mother, my worry was you being able to integrate into this world of society and not be bullied, not be judged, not be joked on because of that disability. I was very afraid of, I think I was very more protective per se, more than him, because of the simple fact that I know what it is to be bullied. And I just didn't want that for you. So I was very protective. I think I just did what typical moms do. I wanted you to have a balance. I knew that you being hard of hearing was going to be a challenge. And I knew that this world is not nice to people with disabilities. They tend to omit or disregard and not think that people are not the same. And so because of that, it was just really important for me and your dad to try to give a balance. We didn't want to take away the deaf community, because I actually love the deaf community. I grew up around a gentleman who was deaf, and I love the community altogether. So I didn't want that part of your life to be omitted, but then I didn't want this part of the hearing community to be omitted as well, because we live in a world of majority hearing people. And so I just wanted, I guess my fear was just you finding that balance. So I was greatly afraid of that, yes. And so it just made me this very protective mom over you coming up. How would you say?
I would say the thing that I worried mostly about was, I worried a lot about her being bullied, but then at the same time I didn't worry so much about that. I guess I worried more about it depending on where she was, depending on what she was doing.
Yeah.
When she was at school, I didn't think about her being bullied, because I felt like she would be around a lot of people that were similar to her, so I didn't, and although I know there were probably a lot of chances for her to get bullied at school, I didn't really think that way, because for one, Danielle's personality, and she took a lot to both sides.
Yeah.
So the hearing community, most of the people were amazed that
she was
she could do the things that she could do,
hard of hearing. They didn't even believe that she was hard of hearing because of how advanced she was. Because like I said, when she was young. I'm sorry.
No, I'm just messing with you.
Nope.
So also the one thing that most of the things that I worried about was for Danielle later in life. Um, that was mainly my thing, was just, not knowing how things would turn out for her later in life. Like I said, high school, middle school, elementary school didn't weigh so much. It was mostly, her adult life is where,
Yeah, that's true.
that's where
That's true.
They are actually wondering because of picture I post. They were wondering what you're reading in Navy.
oh, my rate. I was a fire controlman. I retired.
Chief.
I retired as a chief fire controlman in the Navy.
Chief.
I was electrician. Well, I came in the Navy undesignated. I was an undesignated fireman, and when I got to my first ship, I struck electrician's mate, and I made EM3 on the first test that I took as for third class, and I made EM3, and then I was stuck as an EM3 for the next like 5 years, which motivated me to want to cross rate to something else because I wanted to get out of engineering. So I retook the ASVAB. I studied, retook my ASVAB, got my scores high enough to where I could cross rate to FC. Got approved for FC. And I cross rated FC. Second class test I took as an FC, I made second.
Yeah.
I know you didn't ask all that, but I told you.
I was gonna say, you giving him a straight up autobiography. And I came in undesignated, so I ended up as a deck seaman, E3. But when I found out I was pregnant with Danielle and I learned of her disability, we decided, since he had stayed in and he had already made himself established in the Navy, that I would get out because we didn't want her to have a dual parent.
Military.
Yeah, we didn't want a dual military family for her because that meant when we say that means that one half a year he would be out to sea, I would be home, and then the other half he would be home, I would be out to sea. We wanted someone to be stable in her life, and so since I had just joined and I did not strike a rate or anything like that and make myself established, I went on ahead and got out so that I can be more stable for her, and he did the military.
What level of support did your family receive from the Navy, and how other military families navigate with similar situations?
I'll take it.
That's a good question.
So I think the Navy, I'll say the military as a whole, but I only know about the Navy because that's what I was in. But the Navy was pretty good. They have this program called the Exceptional Family Member Program. I'm pretty sure they still have it. I had heard about it, but I didn't really know a lot of specifics. But that program helped a lot. It helped, they had that, and then Champus, I think, was the other part that helped, as far as getting her the hearing aids that she needed, and, they handled a lot of the therapy, like the speech therapy that she went to, stuff like that. And like I said, it helped us as a family. It helped us stay in one spot. They didn't really like to, force you to, travel here and there and everywhere, being an exceptional family member. And it has certain levels to the exceptional family member. I don't necessarily remember them specifically and what they actually stood for, but I just remember specifically a time when we first moved here that we were, renting apartments, and we were trying to move from the apartment we were in because they were raising the rent, and Courtney was like, let's try housing. So I had went over to the housing office to put us on the list to get housing. Didn't know when we would get it, so we had already looked at another apartment that we were going to move into. And when I was at that appointment, the lady was telling me how long the list was and all this stuff, and then she asked me if I had an exceptional family member, and I was like, yeah, my daughter's hearing impaired. She's hard of hearing, and she and we're part of that program, but I don't know what category we are. And she was able to look it up, and she found it. She was like, okay, good news. The category that you're in moves you to the top of the list.
Yeah, it made us a priority.
Yeah, it made us a priority. So we was pretty much, I think, within that next like 2 weeks, we were moving into housing, which was awesome. So
one thing I will say about the military that was a tremendous blessing to us is that they gave us a lot of provision for her, as we were able to stay on up to date with all the updated equipment and stuff. So they kept us updated with all the new equipment that came out. If there was a new hearing aid that came out, Danielle had it. If there was a new program, the FM system, yep, that we got that. We were given so many great opportunities to really be a good provision for her and to help her in her development. And like I said, we did speech therapy. We did, she started school earlier than normal children because of her situation. We had home school her first year where they introduced sign language to her and stuff. And so it was just an awesome position for us to be in, because I can't say that if we had not had the military that she would have had the ability to be the type of person that she is today, to be perfectly honest. Because the military just did wonders and took care of everything at zero cost. We owe nothing. You know, they just, it provided for the family. And even with the support, as far as other deaf or hard of hearing children, we didn't really come across too many other hard of hearing children in the military atmosphere. It was always local.
it was a couple.
I don't remember.
Yeah, it was one. Remember the lady that was stationed on the same ship as me, and her son was almost like Danielle.
I don't remember that. But but I mean, I do remember that we did have a lot of disability children, but they were not in the same situation with Danielle. A lot of situations with the military, as far as a support family group, we didn't necessarily experience that. It was more civilian that supported us as far as Danielle was concerned. So hopefully that answers the question. Right?
Okay, what is your favorite memory with me?
Oh, I got one. Let me tell this one. So, one of my favorite memories, and it's simple. One of my favorite memories was having the FM system. You know, Danielle had the little thing. It's like a little receiver on her hearing aid, and you know, she used it for school. She had one for school, and then she had one for home too. And then so the other side of it, the transmitter part, you had like a microphone and you had another box. And so like I would come home from work, or it'd be like a weekend or something like that, and Danielle would be like upstairs or something and playing with KJ, and I'd be downstairs with Courtney, and I'd be like, watch this, and I'd go get the FM thing and I put it on, I put the mic on, and then I would hide the cord, and I would go, Danielle, like that, and then you could hear Danielle, Dad, and she'll come running down the stairs, and she'd be looking around, and I'd be like, what's wrong with you? You know, so that was a little game that I would always play with her, so that's one of my best memories.
What about you, Mom?
So I have a lot of memories. I'm not gonna lie. But the one that I think is the funniest is when we bought that microphone system thing, and Danielle would be downstairs singing her heart out.
Yes.
Oh my God.
She would, that's true.
She would be singing and just and having herself in her own little world.
Yes.
And then one day I came downstairs and I said, Danielle, baby, you can't sing. She was like, what? I told her, I said, Danielle, you can't hear your tone? But she was like, why you didn't never tell me? I was like, you in your own little world. You just singing. Yeah, she stopped singing after that. I wish she hadn't stopped singing. But it was just so, she doesn't sing in front of us. But when she would grab that mic and she turned the game on and get to singing, it was so much joy. Yeah. Because it didn't matter. I knew that she couldn't, harmonize because she couldn't hear her tones. But just because she put forth the effort and she would light it up, boy. She would hit that high soprano note, and me and Kevin be upstairs cracking up laughing. I was like, oh my God, but it was just so much joy. So I would say that was probably the funniest one.
One follower asked, how old was Danielle when she was singing?
You were in middle school.
Yeah.
You were in middle school, so I want to say she had to have been around 12, 13. That's not middle school, is it? Yes, it is. Yeah. 13, 14, somewhere around there.
It's kind of stretching.
14 is probably stretching.
I think it's 10. I think it's
You
more
think it
like
was
10.
10?
I think it's more like 10.
She was somewhere around there.
Somewhere around there. Middle school age.
We just know that she could not sing.
Middle school age.
But I would still love to hear her sing because it brings joy to my heart. I love it. I can't sing either, so I can't say nothing.
What advice would you give to new parents that have a child with a deafness?
Okay, so me and Kevin actually talked about this. Yeah. And I would say that my best advice is to just love your child for who they are. One of the biggest things that a lot of people, even Danielle, asked as she gotten older, why we didn't do the cochlear implant and stuff. And I just never defined her to be broken. I mean, she was created the way she was created for a reason. And I don't have any signs of anybody in my household, my bloodline, of showing deaf or hard of hearing. I'm not, he isn't. And so to me, I just found Danielle as a jewel. So I would tell you to learn their personality, learn who they are, and encourage them to be the best version of themselves. Yes, society is cruel, and it's going to be cruel to your child whether they're hearing impaired or not. The unfortunate thing is that, one of the things that me and Kevin was talking about with Danielle when she was little, she was just this burst of beautiful energy, and you put something in front of her, she would go for it. So, she's not limited just because she can't hear. We're just helping her, encourage her to continue to be the best you can be, even though you can't hear. That doesn't stop you from being your best. That doesn't stop you from being the next president. That doesn't stop you from being the next singer. For her, it just wasn't gonna work. But that doesn't stop for being, whatever it is that you want to be, and so we didn't want her to feel like just because you have a slight difference about yourself that you can't excel in life. Yes, you can. Don't let your child think that they are limited. Our daughter drives. I sat in the car on some very horrific, scary moments, but my baby got a driver's license. She can drive. Life still functions, and we just wanted to encourage that and to teach her that you can still be your best version, whatever that is. just because you have this. So I would tell you just to love your child, love them, and give them the best foundation that you possibly can to show them how to survive in this world, and let them know that they will be judged. It will be some cruel people out there, but that doesn't take away who they are. They don't define them. They are already defined. That you're just there to help build their character and to show them who they are. What would you advise?
My advice would basically be something that I think we overlooked. So my advice would be, don't overlook this part. Don't overlook the fact that one of the ways, now this is Kevin's theory. So this isn't something that this isn't something that's probably written in a book somewhere. It might be, I don't know. But this is my theory. Kevin's theory is most children learn, they probably, I would say, and again, this is my math, 75 to 80% of their learning comes from eavesdropping.
That's true.
But when you have a deaf child or a hard of hearing child, that's one thing they cannot do. They cannot eavesdrop. Now, I take that back. They can eavesdrop if they're good at reading lips, like Danielle was. But here's the thing that I would say, learn from this part is the fact that when you're in a room and you're talking, there's a conversation going on. If you're in a room, there's everyone in the room can hear, then everyone can hear the conversation. Well, someone that's deaf or hard of hearing, they can't. Most times they can't hear because there's always some other noise. Like if the TV's going, we can still hear the conversation and the TV. That may be overwhelming for a hard of hearing child to try to decipher what's going on, like the conversation and stuff like that. So if you do have that signing, if you do sign in your household, do that while you're, in a room conversating, so that they can understand what's going on too, especially as they get older. That's something that I feel like we missed.
Yeah, and not make them feel like they're not part of the conversation or they're left out.
Right.
And so that they, because he's right, we can't automatically assume that, it's because Danielle was very good at reading lips, that she understood everything, because she still didn't. And we probably should have picked back up that sign language and just fluently signed after, yeah, I agree. That's very good. That's good. I agree.
How did you feel about me connecting with the deaf community?
Oh, I think it's wonderful.
Yeah.
I love it. The only thing with her, I'm just gonna talk about my kid, is that Danielle did not necessarily accept the hearing community as well as she did the deaf community. It was one or the other. So she sided with the deaf community more, and that bothered me because of the simple fact that, no pun intended against the deaf community, but you can only teach what you know. And if you don't hear it and you don't know it, you can't teach it. And so Danielle has a very unique situation because she has the world of both. And I wish that she found a balance where she could still communicate with her deaf community as well as accept the fact that she has a hearing community as well, and bring the two together. as she grew up, or as she was growing up, that was one of the things that I tried to impart into her, is to learn how to find a balance between the two and to bring the two together. Because there are a lot of things that we as a hearing community don't understand. And she's a great intercessor to help us understand the deaf community and not have a misunderstanding to how they are, why they think the way they think, why they act the way they act, or anything like that. I love the deaf community because, like I said again, I grew up with a friend who was completely deaf, and he was my best friend. And so, disability for me, acceptance has never been a problem. It was very complicated to try to get our daughter to understand that. And we still have our moments where we battle, but she's gotten a lot better, and she's getting better. So I hope that she continues to embrace the deaf community, but also be okay with embracing the hearing community as well.
How did you deal with other children or adults that does not understand hearing loss?
Oh, I went off. I'm the firecracker. I went off. I think it's totally disrespectful. I think it's very, we need to make ourselves very aware that everybody is not the same. And we also need to give a mental, like if you're talking to someone and they're not responding to you, that's not because they're ignoring you. Why don't you think about that and be like, oh, this person may not hear, But again, I'm not gonna call it ignorance, but that's kind of in that line of, because it's unaware and it's a disability that you can't see. It's not an obvious disability. So when you're dealing with someone that's not hearing, it's not like they walk around with their ears off. They look just like us and they operate just like us. The only difference is that they can't respond because they can't hear you. I had a very complicated, interesting experience with Danielle growing up. I learned that society is just not catered. There's not enough support out here for children that are hearing impaired, disability, or have hard of hearing, and any other, it's not enough support. And so growing up with her in the school system was very trying. Teachers did not want to conform to the IEPs. They tried to give her lessons that only a hearing child probably could have, that didn't make any sense. It's very important as parents to know your laws and your rules and to stand by them. I had to fight for Danielle several times to get an interpreter, because I'm like, if you're going to discuss something in front of her at any time, she needs to have an interpreter. And a lot of times the system doesn't want to pay for it. It's offered, it's there, but they don't want to pay for it because it costs money to get them an interpreter. That pisses me off, because at the end of the day, even as her being an adult, she goes to the medical, she has to have an interpreter. They would get upset because I wouldn't sign. And I told them, it's not my responsibility to sign medical terminology. I don't know medical terminology in sign language. Why would you not supply that to her? She needs to understand what's going on with her body. So it's her given right to have an interpreter at all times. Yes, you have to pay for it. She doesn't pay for it. They have to pay for it. And a lot of times these practices and society doesn't want to pay. That bothers me. And so I wish that part would change. It really disturbs me. Like even when we go to church, We've gone to several churches, and my first question to the pastor is, why do you not have closed caption up on your screen? Now you have a screen there. Why don't you have a closed caption so that the possibility, you assuming that everybody in your church is hearing? Well, we have a hearing, hard of hearing impaired person right here. She can't hear everything that you're saying. And one pastor was like, you know what, that was a valid point. And I'm like, why do we not think this? You know, like, you cannot assume that everybody in your facility is hearing impaired. You have to make those accommodations. But a lot of it is because people just don't want to pay for it. And I think it makes me mad. It's not fair to her. It's not fair to any other person that has the same situation. And I just wish the society would change. That's just, I'm an advocate for it. It makes me mad. Because when she gets done unright, she'll tell you, I'm ready to go in. Because I'll be the voice. And he'll sit back and he'll be like, y'all don't want to deal with her. Because it's not right. And I will use the law. Because the law works in her favor. Y'all don't want to get me started on that one. You got anything, sir?
No, I think you said enough.
Yes, I said enough.
Alright. Okay, how can hearing people help deaf or hard of hearing people in workplace?
Just treat them like they anybody else.
Yes, treat them like they're humans.
Yeah. So one thing we have to realize too is a lot of people don't. A lot of people, if it's not something you deal with normally, then most people are not gonna, conform or pay attention to that sort of thing. And I mean, quite honestly, coming up, when I was younger, I don't recall even a deaf person at my school. I don't even recall having one. There could have been one, but that just shows you how much we can actually see it or relate to it as we coming up. And I think that part of it I think we should pay more attention to the things around us. And most times, like I said, when I was coming up, if there was someone that was deaf, a lot of people didn't gravitate to that person, so in a lot of cases it was out of sight, out of mind, which kind of falls back into, the previous question. It's just more or less just paying attention to what's going on. Don't treat someone different
Just because they're different.
because there's something about them that's not like you.
Right.
Or not like, anyone else that you have ever encountered. We got to get out of that whole mindset of, singling people out and putting people in a box because they're not the same as you, or, and it could be just, things like that, like someone that's deaf or a blind person, anything. We got to get out of that habit of putting things and people in a box because they're not the same.
Exactly.
None of us are the same. Just because you can hear or because you can talk doesn't make us the same. We're still not the same. You can speak a whole different language. I don't know. What I'm saying? Like, that's something we need to get out of the habit of. So even in the workplace, being so used to the fact of everyone being able to hear is something, yeah, okay, but you got to take into an account that you could come across that person. You can hire, the management can hire someone that's deaf or hard of hearing, and you have to make the adjustment. You have to learn to make the adjustment. And this is where I feel like companies and businesses should be in the habit of training. We have training for everything else,
Right.
but we don't have training for that.
Yeah.
Specifically, like everyone in the community. I'm pretty sure they have it in the HR side of it, but there's more to that person than that side of it. Everyone in the business should know. If you're gonna interact, then everyone should know. We get, like I said, we get training on everything else in the world, under the sun, over the sun, around the sun, but we don't get training and things like that.
And how to deal with people with disabilities, period.
That should be across
and I
the
think
board.
that should be across the board. I really do. I think that it should be definitely for a person that's hearing, need to be more patient. Means that you're gonna have to take that extra step. You can't talk to her with her head turned away from you. You gotta go up to her and tap her and say, hey, then you talk. And if they don't understand, put it on paper. They read. You know, they may not be able to understand you verbally, but if you put it on paper, they read. They can read. You know, it's just taking that time to thoroughly communicate to the other person that has the disability. And it's just like Kevin said, you know, unfortunately, you wouldn't think that you would need to be trained for something like that because it's common courtesy. At the end of the day, if me and him working together, we both hear just perfectly fine. Well, we can have a misunderstanding too. I can come up to him with an attitude for no reason whatsoever, and he'll just inadvertently take it back out on me because I came to him and didn't even address him and say good morning. But if I can just come back and say, hey, I'm sorry, I had a bad morning and I took it out on you. How is that any different than us taking time out to get to communicate with a person of disability, of hard of hearing, you know, whatever. Like, just, I don't understand. Like, we just need to take time and really be considerate to what the other person needs. You know, just like I need to be considerate that I came to this person incorrectly and I didn't even bother to say good morning. If I can say I'm sorry to him and I can, you know, ask him to forgive me or whatever, this is no different, you know. Take the time and stuff. I wish, as a matter of fact, I have, and it's funny as you said that, I have a young lady that is deaf. And we talk, well, we were talking, she talks too much, y'all. I was like, sweetie, I have to go to work. She will stand there because when they learn, when people know that you know sign language, it's amazing when you approach a deaf person and they know they see that you know the language. It's exciting to them. So she would sit and just start talking to me, and we would sign, and I would tell her about Danielle and everything. She would just start signing and everything, and I had to cut it off, y'all. Not because I didn't enjoy talking to her, but because I'll get in trouble. We're supposed to be working. And she's holding a whole conversation 30 minutes in the hallway. I can't do it. But just as sweet as all get over. She is such a sweet lady. And I actually have her on my Facebook as a friend. Beautiful, beautiful young lady. She's very sweet. And yeah, but you know, you just have to take time and just treat them like they're humans, because they are human. They're not aliens. They're not going to take your ears and make you deaf or anything like that. They're very respectful individuals. You just have to get to learn them on their level. That's all.
I have one last question. What's your favorite part about me? I hope so.
Well,
Do I need to go first? Because you tend
yeah,
to be
yeah,
long-winded.
go ahead.
Okay.
That's so rude. That is so rude.
Hey, some people are never thinking.
Whatever.
I would say my favorite part of Danielle would be her heart. She has a genuine heart for people. Just for people, for the right thing. She's a genuine heart. And and that's my favorite part. There are times I wish her heart that she would protect her heart a little more. But then also there are times when I wish she would show her heart more. But that's probably my favorite part of Danielle is her heart.
My favorite part about Danielle is the fact that when she puts her mind to a positive situation, she is a beast She will not stop until she gets the answer, gets its Excel or whatever. And I can give so many examples of what I mean by Danielle. When she was young, she started praise dancing. Now, we're talking about somebody that cannot hear music. She was one of the best praise dancers in our church. The pastor was amazed at how Danielle kept up with all the other girls in praise dancing, and she couldn't hear the music. It was just one of the most beautiful things to see, is to see this beautiful little diamond blossom in front of you, doing something that she loved to do. She loved to dance. And so she danced. And she didn't let her hearing situation stop her from dancing. She figured it out and she made it work. And she became the prettiest praise dancer. And later on in school, she ended up with the cheerleading squad. She did a drill team, and they did an article on her in her yearbook at Ocean Lakes, a whole page of just talking about her. This is the same young lady that went from being in small classes, because Kevin and I learned that they were not going to give her a diploma if she had stayed in the small classes, that she turned around and we put her in regular classes with IUP. And Danielle passed all her tests that were qualified in the state of Virginia. And my baby was 1 credit away from getting her advanced diploma. Advanced diploma, not just her regular diploma, her advanced diploma. 1 credit. 1 credit. And I love the drive that she has. That when she puts her mind to something and she work it, and under no circumstances whatever, when she doesn't let people get into her head, she is a beast. And I love that beast about her. I love the drive that she has when she's moving through life, and she's not allowing, like, she made a decision to do the cochlear implants on her own. Kevin and I let her make the decision to doing that. And she not only got it in this ear, but she got it in this ear. She did that all on her own. She did it all on her own. She went through the speech therapy all on her own. You know, she got her driver's license. She told me, it's like, Mom, I'm ready. She did it all on her own. Like this, she never ceased to amaze me, and I'm still amazed at how she is just blossoming. I love her drive when it's her drive and she doesn't let anybody get in the way of it. That's the one thing. She does not let anybody get in the way of that drive, and it's a positive drive. Oh my God. Y'all be ready, because you're going to be blessed with a beautiful diamond. But we just need to keep people out of their head.
You guys have any last words to say before I end the live?
I do. I have one thing that for the parents of any child that is hard of hearing, I want to talk to the parents of any that have a child that's hard of hearing. This is something that they don't tell you that is possible. They never told us, but be aware and watch your child around puberty. Pay attention to your child around puberty, because it's scientifically known that it's quite possible that they will lose a majority of whatever hearing that they have at that point. They'll lose it when they hit puberty. And years ago, they didn't understand why that happens. I don't know if they figured it out now, But I know years ago they didn't understand why that happens or could happen because they said it didn't happen to everybody. But some children that are hard of hearing have lost majority of hearing. That happened to Danielle. She had she always had a certain level of hearing, but as I noticed it, I wasn't around a whole lot because of the military, but that's something I always paid attention to. And I had came home one time from an underway. I can't remember if it was a deployment or I think it was from a deployment, and I would always test. So I would call Danielle from different places in the house to see if she could hear me and would come and respond. And I noticed this time that Danielle just wasn't coming. And I was like, she can't hear me. And I told Courtney, I was like, I think Danielle has lost some of her hearing because she can't hear me like she normally would, you know. And it just so happens that she had a audiogram scheduled, you know, had to go see the audiologist. And I shared that, you know, my concerns, and the audiologist confirmed that she had lost a lot of the hearing that she had, but when she hit puberty. And then they began to explain it, and I'm like, well, why don't they tell you this? You know, so that's my takeaway. That's my one last thing to any parent that, you know, of a hard of hearing child or individual, know that.
Yeah, and then I would definitely say, from a mother's perspective, especially with the way society is, do your best to be a parent, but find a balance to be. Don't be so hard on them. Let's just say that. I'll just say that. Don't be so tremendously hard on them. If anything, try to really understand their world. The more you understand, the more they will open up to you. I think that if you start off and you take in sign language, stick with it. The only reason why we let it go at that point when Danielle was young is because she refused to use her hearing, and we forced it. We forced her to use her hearing in the household with us, but we encouraged the sign language at school. But we should have picked it back up. And because we didn't pick it back up, for me, I'll say that it became a breakage between me and her. Because somewhere there is a misunderstanding that we don't understand. And that's not always the case. So I encourage you as a parent to definitely stick it through with your child, and keep that window, that door of communication open to them. Because if you don't communicate with them, and if you can't communicate with them, they're going to find that communication somewhere else, and that's not always the healthiest communication that you want your child to be adopted into. I had a lot of cases where some particular people wanted to be Danielle's mother, and I had to nip it in the bud. Just because you know sign language, just because you know this, you feel, and Danielle started, because that person signed to them more, Danielle felt more comfortable with them to be around them more than me. And, that had to, no, we're not going to do that. Because this person was doing things and showing Danielle a different side of, and encouraging a negative attitude out of her that wasn't supposed to be there. And so you just have to be careful. So it's always good to keep your sign language up. Go get yourself recertified. Stay in the game with it. Don't fall back off of it like we did. We learned very hard, and we went through a very tough spot with Danielle because of that. So I would definitely tell you, as a parent, stay in the game. Just learn the sign language. Don't let it go. Let it be a part of your building relationship with your child. That way, whatever transpires, you will know, and you won't get caught off guard. You will know, and you can still be there for them in whatever stage of life that they're growing to be.
Thank you for interviewing with me, and I'm glad you guys have shared your same story. So thank you, Mom and Dad. And we'll see you guys till next time. You want to say bye?
Bye.
Look at you. You just had to get your face